it's different than in able-bodied basketball. Remember, what they teach in able-bodied basketball, it's for a person who's standing up, who's shooting from a spot that I can't touch. So all of the discussion about arc that they have doesn't quite apply to us. But the elbow above the eye does work for shots outside the basket. So we've got balance, eye, elbow. Now we're going to talk about follow through. Okay? There's a couple of different things. The first one we've already touched on. What do you do with your fingers? Okay? Steph's going to be pointing at that spot. We also want the follow through to stay up there. One of the athletes who I most enjoyed coaching over the years was a gentleman by the name of Will Waller. When he'd go to the free throw line and he'd take a shot, his follow through would stay up there for generally about 3 to 5 seconds. He really emphasized leaving that follow through up there. Sometimes I think there's a bit of communication going on in that statement, but absolutely outstanding free throw shooter. And in large part because he left his follow through up there. What I want our shooters to do, worry about shooting. Think about shooting. We'll expand on that in a second. The shooter is not the person that goes back for balance. We see that too often. That shooter goes and takes that shot and is looking around and starts to leave their shot early because they think they've got to get balance. All we want them to focus on at the time of their shot is to follow through and finish on that shot. Somebody else will get balance. Somebody else will help them get back so they don't get backpicked. But we want our athletes to learn to take every shot as if it's a game-winning shot. And we do that by telling them to leave their follow through out there. When we're first teaching it, we'll tell Steph, take your shot, keep your follow through up there until the ball hits the rim or the ball hits the ground, whichever you feel as a coach you want to use. So she's going to follow through, pointing at her target. She's going to leave her hand up there until the ball hits the rim at least. Okay, go ahead, Steph. Now the great thing about making them leave their hand up there for their fall through, it teaches shooting discipline. And to do that, you stop thinking about whether the ball's going in and you begin to internalize your shot. Great shooters don't worry about the ball going in. Great shooters know that if they shoot a certain way, the ball is in by definition. Okay, that's good. So we talked about the intermediate phase of our shooting progression in athlete development. Balance, eye, elbow, fall through. Okay? Balance in the chair, side to side, and sitting in it properly. Balance on the hand. We talked about eye, the target that you're looking at. A very narrow target, a very small target. We talk about elbow. Power generation, your elbow follows your hand and your elbow finishes above your eye for any shot outside the key to get the proper trajectory. And we've talked about follow through. Your index fingers pointing at that target and you leave your follow through up there at least till the ball hits the rim when you're first teaching your athletes. What you're going to find as you move along is there's different things that you want to refine at this point specific to an athlete. So if I'm talking with Steph, I may not worry about her target because I see she's got that every time. I may not worry about her balance in the chair. What I may focus on refining with her is I might focus on her elbow. I might focus on her leaving her fall through up high. So it's not going to be everything. It's going to be a couple things. The other thing I can begin to do is I can refine based on classification or based on functional ability. So Steph, I might need her to lean into her back rest. She doesn't have back extensors she can use to get back extension and space off for back rest to generate power. She might generate power a different way. She doesn't have leg function that I might have an athlete use to almost do a jump shot in their chair. And obviously, when we're teaching a jump shot, what we call a jump shot, to our athletes with leg function, they're strapped in a chair. If your athlete's not strapped in and they've got leg function, you can't do that. Okay, that's gonna be a PAF. So, just so we're clear on that. Okay? So, does anybody have any questions before we move on to what we begin to do with our elite athletes? Okay.
How many shots do you recommend a beginner to take in their shooting session?
Well, that's a great question. How many shots should somebody take if they're a beginning shooter? You know what we want? We want to get as many repetitions of your shot as possible. Now that's different than shooting. We talked about cowboy shooting to open up. All those repetitions that a kid does in their basement, those count towards your mastery. Okay? If Steph's sitting here and she doesn't have a ball and she's doing what we call shadow shooting, those all count towards your mastery. They say to master your sport or your craft, whatever it may be, you need about 10,000 hours of quality practice. All those repetitions go towards that. And the great thing is, your body doesn't really know that much difference between all of those. So I don't think there is an upper limit. The lower limit is clear, 0. That's not the number you want. So you want to find somewhere between unlimited and 0. I would recommend as many as you can without getting injured. And if you're doing good shooting mechanics and built your shot from the ground up, or you've built the shot of your athlete from the ground up, you're more likely to have good mechanics that don't result in injuries. Okay? So we're going to go on to the next level, what we really do with our elite athletes now. Okay? So at this point, your kids learned how to shoot, your athletes learned how to shoot. They've got good basic mechanics. You've begun to refine what they do, make it specific to themselves. You've addressed their function in their shot and maybe some of their own little quirks, whether it's their eye, their elbow, their fall through, whatever it might be. And you've begun to refine those things. So they've got the idea of what a good shot is. Pass me the ball. What we do now is we take our elite athletes and we put them in front of a mirror. And we have them shoot their game-like shot as much as possible. We generally put them in front of a mirror for about 10 minutes. If Steph's sitting in front of a mirror, you go ahead, start, Steph. And she's doing a game-like shot for 10 minutes. She's going to get about 250 repetitions in. That's 250 shots that your body's just taken. We want it to be game-like, okay? We don't want it to be slow. A lot of times when you see kids go in front of a mirror, they take a slow shot. Their body remembers a slow shot. We want their body to remember a game-like shot. We want Steph watching herself in the mirror, taking a look at her shot, and what we'll say is, whatever you don't think is right, correct it. What we want you to do is shoot what you think is the perfect shot for you. Your perfect shot. And we'll let her just take that shot. We don't give a lot of feedback back to them at this point. We're backing away from their feedback because what we want, or the feedback, because what we want to do is we want them to begin to learn their shot. You ever talk to a great shooter after a game and that announcer goes up and says, wow, you're really on tonight. You had 40 points and you were, keep going, Steph, you were like 19 for 22 or something like that. And the player always says, yeah, I was just feeling it tonight. It just felt really good. And that's because they were completely aware of where their body is in space. Now, as she's doing this, once we think she's got a good understanding of her shot, looking at herself in the mirror, then we're going to have her close her eyes. We'll say, Steph, close your eyes. Take the same shot. Picture yourself in front of the mirror. Feel the ball. Feel your body as you're shooting. What does your shoulder feel like? What does your elbow feel like? What's your wrist feel like?